Stop hoping for your business to grow and start mastering the formula for success that every entrepreneur needs to grow their business. Join us for 5+1 Mastery, where every week we go in depth on how to grow your business the right way. Learn more at 5+1mastery.com.
So I thought, what would these older people like to hear about? I thought they would maybe like to hear about my journey in becoming an American. And my story was about how many times I could have ended up as a different nationality.
I'm your host, Chaz Wilson. I bring you successful entrepreneurs, add valuable wisdom to your journey, and help you succeed. Welcome to Connect, Share, and Prosper.
Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Connect, Share, Prosper. I'm your host, Chaz Wilson, president and founder of Master Networks, and I am going to introduce our guest today, special guest. Super excited to have my partner on the call today, one of my partners here with us, Tina Campbell, who has been with Master Networks since 2013. And she joins Master Networks as a regional partner for the New York and Western Connecticut region. And Tina has overseen and developed management policies and procedures for companies such as Joseph E. Seagram and Sons, Harris Corporation, Gray Advertising. I'm going to really probably mess this up. Sumitomo Corporation of America, Tyler Search, and Keller Williams. Currently, she is the Chief Systems Guide for Free Enterprise Warriors. Tina is a very focused and project-oriented manager and entrepreneur. She believes in the power of relationships and building bridges to make connections. She loves to help people use these connections to increase their business. She knows that building top-of-mind awareness and communicating your unique value proposition is key to successful local business. She helps entrepreneurs to achieve their goals through membership in Master Networks. Help me welcome to the show, Tina Campbell. Welcome. I was going to make up a bunch of stuff in there, like in the intro, and just see if it would throw you. Like, Tina Campbell has done, have you ever done running of the bulls? Do you ever do that? That would have been a fun one to.
I was thinking maybe something like if I had a tiger zoo.
By the way, I've seen like one episode of that crazy show, right? So Tina, welcome. You are a partner for Master Networks in the New York region, and 2013. You've been a member since 2013. That's crazy to me.
Yeah, it really is. I think because in the beginning, it was so new that we were all trying to figure this out, and time went by really fast. It's gone by super fast.
Yeah. So help people understand, what was it about Master Networks in 2013 that you were like, I'm going to jump on this train?
Well, my mentors, and then I found more mentors, but my mentor, Dave Jenks, and my business partner at the time, with Free Enterprise Warriors, was like, hey, Tina, I really want to do this, kind of like stopping what we were doing a little bit so that he could go do that. And I was just like, when I heard about it, I was like, oh, this is, yes, you need to go. And then I said, can I come? He also said, but in the meantime, he was already going, you need to do this. And I joke around with him and I say that, he said, like, just do it. But I mean that in all the best sense. He was just like, figure out what you need and skills you need to do this, because you need to be doing this. He saw the vision and he transferred the vision of your vision, went to him and then went to me.
But it's interesting, the lesson there is you said yes and then said, let's figure out how to do it. And so many people want to have all the answers filled out before they move. Yeah. Which, is an interesting lesson of success, right? Is like, hey, let's figure this out as we go, but we see it's a good thing. We see it early. We see it now. Let's jump, right?
It was trust. I mean, the trust transference, I call it trust transference. I trusted Dave and then Dave trusted you and then I trust you. That that's what networking is.
Right. Right. So let's go back before this 2013. Let's go back to your days, your background, your history. I mean, you have a extensive background in HR and some other areas. And, how did that start? And tell us about where that started for you.
Well, in college, I have a business economics degree. But coming out in, I'm not going to tell you when, but, let's just say 80s.
Your secret's safe with me. You can tell me. No one's listening.
In the 80s.
Yeah.
And, my first job out of college, seriously, was that I answered the phones. I got my foot in the door, and that's what my parents, I'm first generation American, and they were just like, work hard. They gave me an education, they gave me a used car, and they were like, go use it.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay. So I found a job answering phones, but I knew that this, I need to do more. I was just sitting there, doing that. And I would go to the department heads. I like, can you give me something to do?
So your parents really instilled that hard work ethic in you, right? Where did they immigrate from?
So my mother is from England, and she met my dad there. He's from Latvia. They met after the war. He was in a displaced persons camp in England, and then they immigrated in 1951, first to Canada and then to New York. So, I'm blessed as a business person that they decided to come to New York. Not that I don't love Canada, but they were going to go out west and clear land. So, that I'm blessed as the type of person that I am, that they came to New York, for sure.
So you were born and raised in New York?
Yeah, I was actually born in Brooklyn Hospital, and then they moved us out to Long Island, where my dad was a carpenter, and it was all the building that was going on. And he worked 7 days a week, for us, and had a little house there. And he was just the most amazing guy. And both of my parents were fantastic.
And so you grew up in Long Island. And have you lived in New York your whole life?
Yeah, except for, in New York and going to school in New York. Yeah. Which is kind of like why my kids going to, taking them to other states for school was kind of like my dream. And that's what you do, right? You live vicariously through your kids.
Right. Yeah. So them going to schools, other places was a big deal for you. Yeah.
Yeah. I thought to myself, you know what, you can always come back. But go see other people, cultures, things you never know, you experience. I mean, that's what I always wanted to do, but we just didn't have the money when we were, and school was so different back then.
Oh, yeah.
College and I was an RA, so I worked, as an RA in the dorm too. You could see me, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I could see that. That's no surprise. Yep. What I'm curious about is what about your upbringing, your childhood, growing up Long Island with your parents, et cetera? What are like the experiences, or was there an experience or something they taught you that's really stuck with you in the way that you bring sort of that culture piece, especially to your Master Networks leadership?
Oh, sure. Well, there's two things. I mean, culture was big in our family because, it was keeping the culture, right? My father loved being American. He, they would say to him, "Wow, you have a thick accent. What are you?" And he'd be like, "I am American," But he also, we had some of the culture, some of the Latvian culture. We have my whole family, half of the family's over still in Latvia. They're in Riga.
Wow.
I still have an aunt and cousins and all of that, and we try to communicate. But they tried to keep any culture that they could. Obviously, my mother is British, and she was always interested in what was happening back at home. So we had that, but I have to tell you, they were always instilled in me. We're so thankful to be here. So I knew growing up that this place was of such importance to my parents, and therefore I needed to respect it. I actually, just to tell you a real quick story, I was invited to go speak at one of our local assisted living facilities in the area, and they were compiling stories, just stories, and you could talk about anything, and they were being given to the Library of Congress. And I decided that I thought, what are these? And you would be speaking to the people that live there. So I thought, what would these older people like to hear about? I thought they would maybe like to hear about my journey in becoming an American. And my story was about how many times I could have ended up as a different nationality, whether it could have been if I was born in Latvia, if I was born in England, if I was born in Canada, if I was born, all along the way, and how I ended up becoming, this, and growing up as a woman and a business person in America.
Wow, that's cool.
It was very cool.
Yeah, I mean, knowing some of that makes a lot of sense to the things you bring. We all bring certain experiences and culture to, from our growing up to our experience today. What about it is important to you, man? I sense that strong respect you have, that loyalty you have, that kind of sense of community, obviously, right? That you have. And so how do you instill that today? What are you doing to instill that?
Well, doing a lot of different things, but I think the most important thing is to respect. I will give my respect until it's, it's not respected back, obviously, but I think I give it. So I'm listening to people, I'm listening to their stories, and I appreciate what they've done to get where they are. listen, I mean, I completely get that. The other thing I want to just mention one thing about my background, which is working for a global company. When I, worked about 8 years at Sumitomo Corporation of America, a Japanese trading house, I learned to take cultures of people that don't necessarily understand each other and try to make some overlap where they could communicate and they could move forward as a team. And that was really big for me, because I had that epiphany that, wow, we're all global. Anything that affects, over there is going to affect here later on. And so some of this thing that's going on now, I get it. It's like, I never look at, oh, well, look at them or they did this. It's all of us together as human beings.
All connected, yeah.
All connected. It's all a network, right? And so that's why I think I looked at that and working for a global company, and I realized, if there's a typhoon over there, we're going to have problems here with our supply chain. So I think making that connection has helped me throughout all of my years. And I think that's why I'm excited about this opportunity working with the culture, because I want to make sure that we're bringing that across the country, if not globally, and all of us respecting each other. And so that sense of community that we've created here, like in our New York region, comes from the top, right? So if I have respect, I expect everyone to respect each other. That's just it. There's a couple of things, and I've talked to you about this, where I have 5 core values for myself and my region, and I put everything that I do through that lens.
Let's go through those core values. I think it is the driver, right? It is the thing that you're talking about that drives you. And it clearly helps me understand why with you, there's never really an us versus them. It's always us. Like, it's just always us. You're very inclusive in that sense. But, and you mentioned this being over culture and stuff. So recently we just announced you're our director of culture and retention for all of Master Network. So we're excited for that. And this is sort of that kind of announcement of that. In fact, I think today we've made that public announcement, or it's coming out today. So those core values, let's go through them really quick, or each one at a time. So I call you on the spot on this, so I hope you have them off the.
No, you don't know how often this. I can go backwards if you want me to.
That's the power of having core values, that you know what they are, because they really are your core. All right, so let's start with the first one.
Okay, and there's no particular order of importance for most people. It's kind of my importance list. So number 1 is relationships. But then what I do is I push my actions through, like, does it do that? And I look at it as a litmus test. So how we get the relationship is through the chapter meetings and face-to-faces.
So when you say your core values, relationships, what you're saying is relationships are important. Relationships matter. Relationships over transaction. Everything you're putting it through the litmus test is relationships are the most important.
Right. So does it, so when I was building, I was like, does this decision, does it go through Chaz's view of what this is supposed to be? And is it, does it go through mine? And I knew that we were synced. So I wasn't worried about that. As long as I said, well, is this what Chaz wants it to be? From what I heard, and I listened to you. And then it's like, I just kind of took it upon myself, because I didn't feel like any of this was, in any way opposite from what you wanted. So I just felt like I clarified it in my head. Number 2 is community. So now, how do I get the community? So I got the community because we used to have mixers like crazy. These people really liked to, but we did all kinds of things. People would come to me and they're like, can we have a bowling party, or can we have a bowling contest? Of course, everything's a contest.
Right.
I'm like, sure, go ahead. But the one thing, I have put my HR hat on, and you'll appreciate this. People come to me and they're like, can we do this? I'm like, yes, and you're in charge.
That's right. What a great idea. Thanks for volunteering. It's all you.
Voluntolding,
Yes.
Here we call it voluntold.
So relationships, community.
3 is personal and professional development. So how do you get that? MNU, Master Networks University. You can plug right in. It's a no-brainer, right? We have all of that education. Number 4 is super important, and sometimes it's so impossible to compute, or to think of it that way. Is resources. So when people call me and they're like, what's the architect in the group? I'm like, go to Direct Track. who's this? Go to Direct Track. We have a directory that's Direct Track is our online application, and it makes sense. Direct Track, directory and tracking makes so much sense. Go there. You will find resources like it's unbelievable.
It's not just the resources, but you've become the resource too. That's why it's such a core value of yours, because you're a resource for these people in your region all the time.
Oh yeah, because I'm getting emails all the time. Can you help me with this? What's this? What's that? And being approachable. And I make sure that when somebody asks me for, that connection to somebody in our group, I do that right away. That's like, to me, that's like, money in their bank.
Yes.
Again, that's a value, right? And then the fifth one which is absolutely, number 5, but it's building your business. But it's just that, like, again, you could put that as number 1 for you. It's just completely whatever your values. But I feel like we can plug into those 5 in everything that we do at Master Networks.
It becomes the framework in which you operate in, right?
Yeah, that's it.
So now that just demonstrates why each of us, you listening to this, need to have and be clear about core values, because it becomes the framework you operate with and the test against everything you make a decision on.
Yeah. And look how easy it is, actually. What's hard is to make sure you know what your values are, right? And they've got to be true to you. And one of the things I had to do was somebody, I'll give him credit. It was one of our members who about 3 or 4 years ago said to me, Tina, what is this? Tell me in your words what this is. And we sat down and he said, I want to know can you imagine? I want to know what your core values are. And you know what? I started to cry. He made me cry because it was so powerful. It wasn't a cry, like sad cry. It was a thank you. I actually got emotional because I was just like, thank you for helping me to find these. And it was so clear.
Yeah. So it's interesting. It's interesting you bring this up. So Corey, our COO, and I had a recent experience about 7-8 months ago. We had somebody come through the office. He and his partner, Matt Monero and Judge Graham, came through our office. And we have these core values up on our wall. We'd created them, I don't know, maybe 2.5 years ago, because, we'd heard, hey, you got to create these core values. So we just listed what we thought, right? And they came in our office, they sat down and they were like, man, it looks like you guys have a great thing here. And they looked at both of us and said, hey, we saw your core values on the wall. Can you name them in order? I was like, I think I got to like 4, 5. Yeah. And we stopped and we kind of looked at each other and like, yeah, you got us. We don't know them all like we could recite them. Yeah. We believe in all of them. That's not the issue, right? When we took time to write them all, but we don't say them enough. We don't have them because we had like 13. Right. And he said, the interesting thing is you guys remembered 4 or 5. Yep. He said, that's what we teach every entrepreneur. You should have no more than 5 because you won't remember them. It's tough to remember past that. So he challenged us similarly to like go, what are our 5 or 4 core values? And then that's it. That's what you operate in. Everyone knows them. They can recite them. And gosh, it was like really eye-opening. It is. I don't know that we didn't cry. We were embarrassed.
You would have. It's really important. I think I just want to say with that, I feel like it's very important for the values not to be verbs, not to be actions.
Okay.
I feel like because you're going to have just like our 1, 3, 5, you're going to have the steps and you're going to be able to plug more and more and more. Because I think you limit it when you just do your core values to be actions. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, I think I may disagree slightly in the sense that I might think something like, for example, one of theirs was speed. Yeah. Meaning their core value was we operate with speed. Right. We operate with, yeah. So,
maybe a concept it should be a better word.
There you go.
Concept.
Right. It needs to, right. So I like what you're saying there. So then you take this framework and you take these core values and you take those and then that becomes everything you implement in. So if you're listening to this, I think you should be taking notes on first of all, what her core values are for her and her region, for our region. And so what are the things that how do you take that and make that show up every day and have others in the community adopt that as core values? Because otherwise they're just they stay with you. How do I, as a business owner, because you're a business owner, how have you taken those core values now, implemented that and shared that throughout your business?
First of all, it's never ending. It's never like you do it once. It's constant.
Good point.
So I had a really, really, I think, a good broadcast the other night with Vince Canziati, who's our organizational development coach. He's a member of Master Networks. And, he had said this, and that's why I brought him on. He had said this at a meeting. He said, your culture is something, I'm paraphrasing, something like it's everything you do every day, everybody, right?
Love it.
So, okay, so what does that mean? So you're kind of watching. And again, he also said another important thing. He said, look, you can unpack it every day. So that means you have an opportunity every day to work on it, to change, to make it real. But if your core values, it doesn't mean you don't make a mistake or you say, oh, well, did that really, it was on the borderline, didn't work so good. You go on and you figure out what's the next thing. I mean, with us, it was during this lockdown that we've certainly had in New York for a long time, and we're still in. It was just creating the Zoom calls, and I brought everybody together, and they needed to feel that there was that community, and actually it's brought everybody much, much closer together, and it's even enlarged the culture, which is amazing. But we kind of, was that the right way to go? And I thought about it before I did it, and I was just like, even though the world was doing it, we did it like 12 weeks ago. And so it was just like bring everyone together. Then the idea was to split out, bring them together first and then split out the individual chapters. Some little chapters went with bigger chapters just to have more of a sense. You didn't want 4 people, 8 people, 10 people. You wanted 30. We had 41 people on a call. And it was and we still did the structure of Master Networks. We still did the meeting, but we had to learn to move it along and things like that. Now we're getting down to, we're splitting them out and they're becoming more regular. But I got to tell you, this time that we went through and we kind of came through the other side.
But that's the power of having core values, because when this stuff has happened, these challenges that have come up, it now is to what I think you're saying the gentleman said on your show, is that it's what you live. Like, these aren't just statements on a wall or a piece of paper for you. This is what you're living. That's why it's a core value. And so the activity of coming up with core values is important, but it's more important that they be accurately, genuinely, and authentically what you do and how you live. Otherwise, you can't follow through on them.
Right. And the other one thing about me, I think I'd say about my personality, this about me, Chaz, it's like, I guess because I was brought up like it's fair or it's unfair. I'm so much like that. Is it fair? Is it something that's going to, reflect the values? And if people are unfair or unkind or whatever, I'm just like, I don't have time for that. It's like, I think, in just a matter of just kindness, we can be kind in business.
So I shared this about you the other night, and I don't know if you were on the live I did the other night, because I didn't see you on there, but I shared this about you. So if you didn't hear this, I'm gonna share it now. But I said what's that?
You fell asleep on the couch.
Oh no, it's all good. I mean, listen, that meant you were probably on it because people probably fell asleep while they were listening to it.
I'm so tired. It's been a lot.
Oh, I'm with you. So I said, though, and I referenced you specifically, I said, what's interesting I talked about partners and where core values fit with partnerships. And I went through my acronym for partners. And I talked about one of the things I mentioned about you. And I just so admire and respect this about you. In a partnership, it's one thing to I could use my wife as an example too. It's like the point of a partnership isn't to agree on everything. That is not the point of a partnership. My wife and I don't agree on everything. That isn't the point. And the point with you is that you and I don't always see eye to eye initially, or we might not, or you might say, Chaz, have you thought about this? Are you thinking about this? And I used the example, and I talked about when I was out there this last time. You and I remember on the way to the airport, we were talking about something and we were disagreeing on something. And you're like, well, I see it this way. That is what I admire. There's 2 things I admire about that. And I think as partners and people listening to this podcast need to understand, when you're working with people and you do life with people, especially people you are building relationship with and you care about, number 1, speak what you feel and do it respectfully. And we both do that with each other. We're both opinionated and like committed to our opinions, right?
Yeah.
But we did it respectfully, which is what I admire about you. You're like, look, please listen to me. Let me tell you what I think, right? And then we got to the airport. We'd kind of resolved that we were talking about whatever, and we get to the airport and I'm getting out. You just looked at me and you go, I love you. I was like, I love you too, Tina. Like This is the thing that I love about our partnership. I really do. And I admire it so much is that.
You're gonna make me cry.
No, that's not the intent. I just, here's what I mean by this, right? There's many times in life and in business where people will just say what you think they think you want to hear. And there is no value to that. There's no core value that they follow to that. And what I've always admired about you and I working together, and this is a good lesson for everyone listening when you work with people, is if I ask a question, you'll tell me honestly what you think, which is why I keep asking you questions.
Right. But it's also respectfully, like I think I'm not sitting there and I'm like, oh, this is, stupid or whatever. It's like, and I may belabor the point, certainly, but I just want, it's always for the best intent. And that's what, and so when you're working with people and, again, years of HR work and trying to build teams is just to be respectful. You can have difference of opinions and kind of, this is where I think we need to get back to that, right? In general, and to say,
agreed.
You have, an opinion, I get it, and I want to respect it. And that's all it really comes down to. I get it and I respect it. Yeah,
because disagreeing is okay. People, it's like anymore, you disagree with something, it's like, oh, you're on the other side of this issue. You're the evil. You're the stop enough. And in fact,
I don't think that way. I mean, I just don't. It's just not in my nature to think that way. And I wasn't brought up like that. And, again, I think we have, because we're learning based people, we're just like them. These people just want to help each other. They want to learn. It's just it's ever expanding because you can never stop learning.
Agreed. And let me tell you, I'll wrap with this, why excited isn't even the right word, of why having you as the director of retention and culture, because I believe that our country, our communities, our local communities, our civic organizations, I believe they could learn a lot from what we do at Master Networks and what you teach as culture. We could do a lot to learn from you and what you've implemented in our country and in our communities. Because if we modeled what you're doing in New York and the Master Networks region, I think a lot of our communities would be in a better place.
Thank you so much. You can't imagine how much that means to me, Chaz. It's just like it's coming from, your heart. And that's all that that I've ever wanted, right? Is just that this be something that, how proud I am of what you're doing and what we've done here. And I just think that, I'm going to do my best. I promise you I will do my best.
I love you, Tina.
Hi.
Listen, guys, we have been blessed today and fortunate to have our regional partner in the New York region, our director of culture and retention for Master Networks, Tina Campbell, on the episode today. Look, every week we bring you successful people who are going to share some really good insights. Many times we talk about sales or metrics or, how to sell or how to market, et cetera, et cetera. Today we talked about what's behind all that. What's the foundation of all of that? Because, selling more doesn't do anything if you don't have the culture to deliver the piece of what you say you are. And we constantly talk about, we are what we say we are. Right?
Yep. It's our heart.
It's our heart. Guys, thanks for being with us today. Tina, thank you. Guys, join us next Monday for another episode of Connect, Share, Prosper. Till then, be well, everybody. Take care.
Thank you. Bye, everybody.
Stop hoping for your business to grow and start mastering the formula for success that every entrepreneur needs to grow their business. Join us for 5+1 Mastery, where every week we go in depth on how to grow your business the right way. Learn more at 5+1mastery.com.